Hello, everyone, and welcome to A History of the Future in Music, a discussion. My name is Dutiful from Dutiful Future, and I'm here chatting to Mark Anthony about his upcoming album, which is obviously entitled A History of the Future in Music, which is due to be released on the 25th of June. And Mark, hello.
Hey, how you doing? Okay,
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
good. Yeah, good. Thanks. Good. Thank you for agreeing to do the interview.
No problem. It's great to be here. So, Mark, this is your second ever solo album, following Reckless Caution from 2016. And as I said, it's set to release on the 25th of June. So let's just jump straight in here. Please, Mark, introduce the album. What is a future of the history of music? Sorry, a history of the future in music.
A history of the future of music. So, in April 2019, I finished recording an album with my group Lyrical Strangers. And straight after we finished recording it, I went to the Caribbean for a couple of weeks. This would have been, end of April 2019. And I just decided, for whatever reason, to spend 2 weeks in the Caribbean writing an album. And I wrote an album and came back to England and just recorded an album, which would have been into sort of early May 2019. And it was sat on it because I was really busy doing music with Lyrical Strangers and then my other group, Neither Silence. And it was only at the beginning of this year, after I kept on thinking what happened to all of this music. So I contacted the producer, his name's Marco, and I said, oh, you know that album sort of, we recorded because he produced it. It'd be really good to put out. So he just said, just put it out when you're ready. So I then decided to wait until June to sort of, start promoting it really. And but the whole album was written over a 2-week period in the Caribbean. And then, as I said, we came back to England in May and just spent a month recording it. So this was, it's about 2 years ago, before anything about coronavirus was even thought of.
So, different time, from a different era, I'm sure.
Completely different time, yeah.
A nice throwback, sort of. It's just to simpler times, I think.
Yeah, much simpler times. Yeah, nothing about social distancing or anything.
So I guess we should start right from the top. Why the name A History of the Future in Music? What sort of inspired that title? And then how does that, I guess, play across throughout the album?
Yeah, so my musical tastes really vary from like classic type of music tastes to current music taste. And I think I was trying to be a little bit clever on the album by predicting, where kind of music is going. So it was me just trying to be a little bit clever with the title, almost like a contradictory title, similar to Reckless Caution. Reckless and caution are two, very contradictory words. So I just wanted to something a little bit clever like that. So there was no like real deep meaning as such. But yeah, I just thought it would be quite apt as a name for the album.
So what would you say is sort of the overall theme of the album? Was it more of an aim to just sort of create 12 songs that you thought sounded good, or was there something that ties them together, or is it more of a single-oriented piece of work?
It was all observations I had at the time, observations. So I was lucky enough to be able to visit 4 different islands in the Caribbean, which were Dominica, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and Barbados. Wow. And everything I wrote within that 2-week period was just observations at the time. So an example being, there's an album track called Sand Dunes. And it was literally just me on a beach, seeing a sign saying beware of the sand dunes. And I just decided to write a song about that. So it's very much observations about what I was seeing at the time physically, and probably just general observations on, society as a whole. Really. So that was a theme.
Like my personal favorite song on the album, which is not spoilers, it's called Funk, and I guess it appears just to sort of describe a night out.
That tune, I love that tune. I remember writing that tune. I was on I was just on a balcony in St. Lucia, and as soon as I Marco sort of helped me create the music. And as soon as the instrumental was done, I thought, oh, right, I've got to write a really good song to this. And Funk, yeah, probably my favorite song on the album as well. One of my favorite songs. Yeah, but that was exactly it. It was just a just me imagining like a night out. And I think whilst I was writing it, I think the night before I'd kind of like been to like the sort of town centre in St. Lucia, because it was the St. Lucian Jazz Festival at the time, and there literally was people and live bands in bars and stuff like that, and I think that was ingrained in my head. And wrote Funk. So again, it was just on the spot, observations that I probably couldn't replicate now, because I've not been there for a couple of years.
I think one thing that comes across in the album as well is sort of it jumps mood, I think, quite a lot in like throughout as it moves. So we have, Funk, which is upbeat and bouncy and fun. And then you can move to sort of like Stella, which is quite melancholic, I think. And then straight after that, it's quite dark and like miserable and nihilistic.
Yeah.
Was this something that came across very naturally? Was this sort of like an intentional progression throughout?
A bit of both. So I think it's a reflection of my own my own musical tastes. And even with Reckless Caution, there were tracks such as an 80s vibe, which was just a real tongue-in-cheek song about the 80s, to tracks like I Still Miss You, which is a very personal track about someone who passed away that's not around anymore. And I've always been a fan of just trying to be different. I always try and make every album I do, or even every song I probably record different from the last. So I think it came naturally, but it was intentional. I didn't want to do 12 fast tracks. I didn't want to do 12 slow tracks or medium tracks. I just wanted to do a mixture. That was just my own personal thing in terms of trying to keep it interesting and keep me and listeners.
And one thing I think, last time we spoke, like you said, about Reckless Caution, you talked about sort of the influences that you take on your music. Of course, it is rap music, but then also you consider yourself quite alternative with several different influences. I think the primary one you said was electronic. However, I think that this album, in my opinion, did seem to stand out quite a bit more from previous ones. I think there was less pure like synth and electronic music and much more sort of like traditional sounds. Like, for example, Stella is very saxophone based, saxophone and piano. Basic, but in a good way. Is this something that is this sort of a departure from previous work, do you think?
Yeah, and I think the next album I put out in whatever way, whether it's myself, Neither Silence, Lyrical Strangers or otherwise, will be different to this. I just like keeping things different. I really like keeping things different, and it's really interesting because it was at the beginning of the year when I decided to revisit the body of music that made up this album. I was in a studio in Birmingham, getting it mastered and just putting the final touches to it musically, and I had forgotten about so much of the music. And when I listened to it through studio speakers, I thought, this was really, really kind of good stuff that I really, really didn't want to leave, just in studio hard drive and stuff. So I really wanted to put it out there. And I genuinely, I know it sounds a little bit self-righteous, but I genuinely love the album. I have been listening to it quite a bit, and it's an album that I'm really proud of. And I can't take sole credit for it because I worked on it with a producer, as I said. But I love like the live sax and some of the synths on there and stuff. And I think that I was quite happy with my vocal performances and on the songs. So it's a real standout album for me as well, which is why I didn't want to kind of let it go. If that makes sense.
One thing I noticed, as someone who deals primarily with politics, this album was also quite a lot more political than your previous work. Obviously, there is Political Games, the song, which I can get up on that. But also, Puppet is very political and talks about sort of our future robotic lives and technology. Is this actually the case, or is this me just reading it something that I want to say?
No. Yeah, there were mild sort of political kind of messages in there. I guess. Just about perhaps what was going on at the time in terms of the political world in the UK at the time. So I was just kind of just writing subtly just about certain situations. And I guess actually now putting it out is probably quite apt with what's going on at the moment. But yeah, puppets and political games were had political references in there, which you're exactly right. I have never ever written music with politics in mind or anything like that before. So yeah.
Is this something that you think you might be continuing into the future? Is this something that you've enjoyed as a little step into, or is this sort of a subtle nod, but not really a commitment?
I don't know. We'll put it this way. The music was recorded 2 years ago, and I haven't written anything like that since, but not consciously or unconsciously. Sure. I think it's just kind of what I feel to write at the time.
Yeah.
Really.
More of a natural flow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just a complete natural flow, and that's just me all over. I just kind of write about whatever I feel at the time, whether that's observations, life experiences.
Sure.
So yeah.
So a history in the future of music. You coming out on the 25th of June. You've got 3 words to describe someone why they should boot up their streaming service, why they should go on to markanthonymusic.com or whatever your website is. I'm sure it's in the description, and check out the album for themselves. What are you going to be saying? What are your 3 words to sell this album right now?
Wow.
Feel free to use more if you need to.
Bloody good album.
Perfect. Bloody good album.
Good album. Well, just a slight correction. It's available for pre-order from the 25th of June.
Okay.
But it actually comes out on the 17th of September, so there's like a 9-week
sure.
leeway. Yeah, because what I'm doing, there'll be certain things released in the run up to actually the album.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, it's available for pre-order from 25th of June.
Sure.
And out on the 17th of September.
Sure. So this has been a history of the future in music. This has been with Mark Anthony. Mark, thank you so much for chatting to me today. It's been super interesting. I personally love the album. I would recommend everyone to check it out when it is eventually out. Of course, check out Funk, my personal favorite. And Mark, thank you so much for chatting to me.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for having me on the show. And I hope that you will buy the album. It's a good album. It's a brilliant album. I absolutely love it. So Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Much appreciated.
See you soon, everyone. Buy A History of the Future of Music. Mark Anthony. Check it out.